Recently, I came across a website that won Award Site of the Day just a couple days back on December 25th, and it instantly caught my attention. What impressed me the most was this fluid distortion effect featured on the landing page, where moving your cursor created realistic water-like waves that seamlessly distorted the text. Inspired by this, I decided to recreate the effect myself. So I started exploring Shader Toy and eventually found a shader that matched the wave-like motion perfectly. After a few hours of tweaking and experimenting, I was able to replicate a very much similar fluid water animation using HTML, CSS, Three.js, and shaders. These kinds of effects are often seen on modern award-winning websites, but clear, step-by-step guides to creating them are rare, which is why I thought of sharing this guide with you to help you build these interactive experiences for your own projects. If this video helps you, don't forget to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. For access to the source code or to support my work, you can check out the Pro membership via the link in the description. Alright, let's get started with the code. We don't need much in the HTML since the entire scene will be rendered using Three.js. However, to avoid having a completely empty page, I'll add a simple nav and footer. In the nav, I'll include a logo and a few placeholder links, just using paragraph elements for now. You can replace these with the actual links later. For the footer, I'll add an h1 element with some descriptive text along with a couple of dummy links to balance the layout. And that's all we need for the HTML. Now let's move on to styling. First, I'll start with a universal reset to remove default margins and paddings and set box sizing to border box. This ensures that all elements are styled consistently. For the body, I'll set the width and height to 100% and apply a custom font. I'll also give the background a vibrant orange color and set the text color to a pale yellow to match the look of the original website. The h1 and paragraph elements are styled with specific font sizes, line heights, and weights. The nav is styled to stay fixed at the top of the page, stretching across the full width. I've added padding and used flexbox to align the logo and navigation items neatly with proper spacing. The navigation items themselves are displayed in line with a gap between them, and the button is styled with a transparent background, a border, rounded edges to keep it visually lightweight while still interactive. For the footer, it's fixed at the bottom of the page, mirroring the layout of the navigation bar. The h1 inside the footer takes up 40% of the width, while the footer links are spaced apart using flexbox. Lastly, the canvas element is styled to cover the entire viewport, fixed to the top left corner, ensuring that Three.js scene renders in the full screen mode without interfering with the nav or footer. With this styling in place, the page is ready for the fluid simulation effect. Let's move on to setting up the JavaScript. Before jumping into the JavaScript, let me quickly walk you through the shaders. I've created a separate file called shaders.js to keep things organized, and that's where I placed all the shader code. Now, I'm not a shader expert and I have zero idea how to write shaders from scratch, so to make things work for this project, I took the shaders I found on Shader Toy and asked ChatGPT to help tweak the shaders specifically for our use case. This allowed me to create the precise visual effect we are aiming for, which I'll apply directly to our Three.js scene. With the shaders ready, let's move on to the JavaScript and start building the simulation. I'll start by importing the shaders from shaders.js file. These shaders will handle the core logic for simulating and rendering the fluid effect. Next, I'll start by wrapping all the code inside a DOM content loaded event listener. First, we'll create two scenes using Three.js. One will be used to render the final output, including the distorted text. The other scene will handle the fluid simulation calculation separately. Then, I'll set up an orthographic camera. This type of camera is ideal for 2D simulations as it keeps the object's proportions consistent without perspective distortion. The camera's view will span from -1 to 1 on both axes, covering the entire 2D plane where the simulation will happen. Next, I'll create a WebGL renderer which is responsible for rendering everything onto the screen. I'll configure the renderer with options like anti-alias for smooth edges, alpha for transparency, and preserve drawing buffer to retain the canvas content after each render. Then, I'll set the renderer's pixel ratio to match the device's display for sharper visuals, limiting it to a maximum of 2 for performance. I'll also set the renderer's size to fill the entire screen. Finally, I'll append the renderer's canvas to the document body so that the simulation becomes visible in the browser. Next, I'll create a mouse variable using vector2 object. This will store the mouse's position on the screen, which will be used to interact with the simulation. I'll also initialize a frame variable to keep track of the current frame of the simulation. Then, I'll calculate the width and height based on the window size and device's pixel ratio. This ensures that the simulation looks sharp on high-resolution displays. I'll define options for the render targets, specifying attributes like the format, type, and filters. These options are necessary for storing simulation data accurately. Next, I'll create two WebGL render target objects, RTA and RTB. These act as texture buffers, storing the state of the simulation. The simulation alternates between the buffers to achieve a smooth animation. After that, I'll set up the simulation material using shader material. These material will use the simulation shaders to calculate the fluid dynamics. I'll define uniforms like the texture input, mouse position, resolution, time, and frame, all of which will drive the simulation. Then, I'll create a render material also using shader material. These material will use the render shaders to combine the simulation data with the text texture. I'll also set the transparent property to true so the background remains visible. To display the simulation and render the final output, I'll create a plane geometry. This plane spans the entire viewport. Next, I'll create two meshes, one for the simulation and one for rendering. These meshes will apply the respective materials to the plane. Finally, I'll add the first mesh to the simulation scene and the second to the main scene. This connects everything and prepares the scenes for rendering. Next, I'll create a canvas element dynamically, setting its dimensions to match the width and height of the simulation. This canvas will serve as the texture for the text that interacts with the fluid effect. Using the getContext method, I'll get the 2D drawing context of the canvas and enable alpha transparency for smooth rendering. To set background color of the canvas, I'll use fillStyle function, filling it with the orange shade to match the page's aesthetic. For the text, I'll calculate the font size dynamically based on the device's pixel ratio, ensuring it scales correctly on high-resolution screens. I'll set the font style, alignment, and baseline to center the text perfectly on the canvas. Next, I'll use the fill text method to draw the text soft horizon, the main title, in the pale yellow color. This text will be the focal point of our distortion effect. Once the text is drawn, I'll convert the canvas into a Three.js texture using canvas texture. This allows the drawn text to be used as an input for the render shaders. I'll also set filtering options to linear filter for smooth texture scaling and define its format as RGBA. To handle dynamic resizing, I'll add a resize event listener. Inside this listener, I'll recalculate the width and height based on the new window size and update the renderer size. I'll resize the render targets to match the new dimensions. I'll also update the resolution uniform in the simulation material to reflect the new size. For the canvas, I'll resize it to the updated dimensions, redraw the background, and re-render the text at the new size. This ensures the text stays sharp and centered regardless of the window size. Finally, I'll mark the text texture as needing an update so the changes are reflected in the next render cycle. To enable interaction, I'll start by adding a mouse move event listener to the renderer's canvas. Each time the mouse moves, I'll update the mouse coordinates scaled by the device's pixel ratio to ensure accurate positioning on high resolution screens. The Y coordinate is inverted to match the WebGL's coordinate system. If the mouse leaves the canvas, the mouse leave event resets the mouse position to 0, 0, stopping any ongoing interaction. Next, I'll set up the animate function to manage both the simulation and the rendering. The frame uniform increments to track the simulation's progress. The time uniform updates to the current time in seconds, ensuring smooth animations. The current simulation state stored in RTA is passed to the simulation shader via the texture A uniform. The updated state is rendered into RTB. For the final output, the render material combines the simulation result with the text texture to create a distortion effect. The render targets RTA and RTB are swept to prepare for the next frame, maintaining the simulation loop. Finally, the request animation frame call ensures the animation runs continuously, reacting in real time to the mouse movements. This completes the setup, bringing the fluid distortion effect to life. And that's it. Hope you found the video helpful. See you in the next one.